So who's juggling? Juggling, life. You know, and you're gonna this word life, you can put whatever you want in there. Juggling blank. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Juggling blank. What are you juggling, right? And I want you to take notes. And when I ask a question, it's like, okay, there's gonna be some questions that you can kind of reflect on later, because that's how it goes. So we're gonna talk about balance, right? Juggling. And then what love actually is. Love Secret by Sue Johnson. The love prescription. Okay, so by the way, when I make these little descriptions of the workshops, sometimes they change. Sorry about that. I'm not it. Sometimes I add some, take things out, because I make them 6 weeks before I give the presentation so she can get them out to companies. And so guess what happened in the meantime? This book came out, brand new book. Of course I got it, and I've read it. I read it in one night. And I'm, speed read through this a little bit. So it's not like I never read page to page, cover to cover, no. I start in the middle, I start in the back, but so we're going to go through this love prescription too. And of course, I already, was going to go over 8 dates and got one stuff and tools and ideas. And then we have to talk about obstacles, because this one gives a lot of great obstacles and like roadblocks, what happens to us when it doesn't work, right? And there's some solutions to that. So there is, and there is. It's just so different for so many of you. So keep your, questions, chat them to me now, whatever you need, and then I'll look at them as we go. And then at the end, we'll for sure go into those questions and answers at the end, mostly, right? Yeah, and some people put, in the chat that, of course, we have different time zones because we have lots of companies. I mean, I had a client today from North Carolina or wherever, so we have different time zones. So it's just our Mountain Standard Time is the one I'm talking about, by the way, in Utah. So, okay. Let's get started with balance. Okay, so this is my tire analogy. Okay, so this is our little icebreaker real fast. What happens when you patch a tire after it gets a nail in it? Is it fixed? Is it safe? Ask yourself, is it fixed? Yeah, it's patched. Does that mean it's fixed? Because personally, I don't use the word fixed very much. I use this that, here's the word maintained or managed, right? So we've maintained the tire to a point that it's drivable, but it's not fixed. There's still a hole in it with a patch. Now, if you are like me and rotate your tires and and keep them balanced, and I don't do that myself. I go to the professionals, and I have said this multiple times in therapy or in my workshops. I'm like, I really like my Les Schwab guys because I don't have to do anything. I just go there. I'm not going to jack up my car. Okay. I'm not going to jack up my car or my garage. No, my husband's really pretty handy. He's but do I need to have him jack up my car and fix my flat? No, I don't. I can just take that ride in now, or get it towed there, right? But then it's maintained. And so we do a lot of maintenance. Think about how much money and time and effort you spend in maintaining your car. I love my car. That's my reward system. I love driving. I love cleaning it. If you've heard of some of my workshops, one of my most favorite reward systems is washing and cleaning my car. It's weird. It's super weird. It's actually scheduled. I can do it whenever I want. It's a reward system. Yeah. So the difference between, repaired and fixed, that's what we're going to talk about. Is there any such thing as fixed? Is there any such thing as a fixed relationship or a repaired relationship? So what do we need to fix? We don't need to fix anything. even with a nail in it. And if you watch my, I'm going to put this in the, I'm going to let someone in, and then I'm going to put this. So this is called Couples. It was one of my favorite workshops that I did one-on-one. That's what it's called. If you haven't watched that one's just the basics. It will go over more of this in Gottman and like the basics. I have a couple slides in here from that workshop, but that's already on there. It's awesome. Yeah, sad and tired. Okay. So think about that. What needs to be maintained, balanced, and repaired? Okay. So this is my handout that I made that's on my website, paperbackconnections.com, because I made this, because it needed to be made so I can have a vision. So here's fire, here's water. What puts out the fire? All these things on this side, understanding and power. And on the other side is powerless and trapped, and all the things that Gottman says this doesn't work. Okay. Also, attachment issues should be over there, and a whole bunch of things. Now on this side, bids, friends, commitment. We're going to talk about maintenance, right? Limits, self-awareness, healing. I mean, all these things. Balance is down here. Look, balance. And it's because you have boundaries and values why you can get balanced and juggle. We're not going to stop juggling. We don't, it's just like we don't stop stress. There's no such thing as stopping stress. But what we do is friend stress, maintain stress, manage stress. I actually have stress science workshop that explains that. It's a little different view on stress. And so you look at it a little different. Okay. What you do with your time, energy, and money is your value system and how you get balance. So just refer to this handout. Here's regular values that we have a value system of a higher power, a higher purpose, sorry, time, energy, money. And then here's junk values that we feed when we get into this side. Okay. So it's just a little analogy. It's got lots on there, so don't worry about it too much, but it's the key is this word safety. So how do we get safe while we're juggling, while we're battling everything that we battle every day? And how do we get balanced, right? Well, we first have to know what our 4 basic balance areas are: physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual. Covey and some other people put these in different, he separates these. He puts spiritual into social, I think. Yeah, is that right? And then, but, some put these together. It's emotional and spiritual can be together, or it can be a total separate. So you have 5 balances, but I put those together because it's just basic grounding, connection. It can be spiritual and emotional. So your social, friends, family, community, your relationship, your marriage, your partnership, all those things. And here's your mental, your work, your school. So these are 2 things of health. Okay. Physical health is what we have to focus on when we're juggling stuff also, because number one, if we're not sleeping, if we're not moving, if we've got a really physical element that's really causing all these other issues to fail, then these won't work, right? Physical, when we know how it is when we don't sleep, and why we sleep is a workshop that I really, really also recommend watching, because it if you have sleep issues, if this physical is out of balance. Now, the question would be, how do you know if you're out of balance? If you are juggling stuff, and you're just out of balance. So write down, how do I know I'm out of balance? How do I know if I'm in balance, out of balance, if I'm doing okay or not? And there was a question in the chat about these slides. You will get them emailed to you. Heather emails them out to you. Okay. They will go right out to you as soon, and she sends you the recording of this. So that's the perks to signing up for these workshops instead of just watching them later, you actually get the PowerPoint. So you'll get it. If you don't, email me and I'll just send it to you. I have them all. I have all the email. By the way, I have all these PowerPoints. So if you watch a workshop and you want me to just send you the PowerPoint, it's just Carol, CARYL @blomquistdale.com. So back to this physical balance. All you have to do is take like 2 weeks and record your time. Okay. So I always talk about my elephant journal, my elephant planner. You can see exactly where your time goes. And the minute you do, you can see where your emotional and spiritual time goes, where your physical time goes, where your mental time goes, and where your social time goes. And you'll see where you're at balance. One will be 40% and one will be 10%. And you'll say, wow, I need to increase my emotional and spiritual balance. What do I do to get there? Well, you got to get grounded. You got to get nature, for example, right? Or you got to do some emotional work. You got to record your emotions and sit in them. So things like that. That's how you see how you're out of balance. Because if you don't know what you're juggling and what you're out of balance with, how in the world are you supposed to get balanced in your maintaining a relationship, right? Because if this is real important, your family, friends. So this is your 9 environments basically all together. Okay. So that was your 4 basic balance areas, but this is your environment. Okay. So you'll see in those balances, if you haven't been in nature for a while, if you need to add to your environment with relationships, your home, your physical health, again, see, so that's like, what do you need to clean up? This little guy's cleaning up stuff. So you see what you need to clean up. If it's your financial, that's making you juggle so many things at once, that's, making you hustle for something. And, that's sometimes life right now. Then figure out how you can, add to your financial balance, right? Okay. So let's get into a little bit of Sue Johnson. Anybody heard of Sue Johnson's Hold Me Tight? It's one of, there's my favorite authors. I have my top 10 authors that just will never leave my top 10. So Sue Johnson is right up there next to, the Gauntlets, right? Or she's equal. She's done lots of research herself, and she's, danced the tango in her books for 40 years. And Hold Me Tight is about that. That's a book for a really healthy couple to go through and go through the stages, and lots of exercises and lots of repair and lots and lots and lots. But she has 2 books that are called the same thing. They're the same thing. The Love Sense, is the first that came out 2012. This one's 2014. So something where she had to reprint and she renamed it. So Love Secret, Love Sense is the same thing. Okay. And I think I have, I have these references, but by the way, that's the picture of it, right? So you can reference that. But so just so you know, a little bit of science here of why we want to repair and fall in love again. And then we're going to talk about love a little bit. But why would we want to fall in love again? Why in the world would we want to continue a healthy, long-term committed relationship? There's some ideas here. There's a whole bunch of reasons. But why are you attending this? Do you need some repair? Do you need some kind of a restart? Do you need some new tires? Because I love getting new tires, right? They're a little expensive, but man, it's so nice to have new tires because we have snow. I don't know about you, but I've lived here all my life. I have driven in the snow, and new tires in snow really works well. Bald tires do not. So yes, reconnect, someone says. But think about it. Do you drive around on bald tires and risk sliding? Or do you just go into anxiety and depression and suicidality and just heart disease, chronic inflammation? But that's a long-term relationship produces all these and increases the well-being of your children. We know that. And man, if I don't do any work in my field and in private practice, if anything, the reason why I do my work is for the kids. And I thought I was going to be a play therapist and work with kids, and I don't work with kids very much. I do lots of family therapy, but I work with adults mostly. And it's like, because if I can get to the adults, then I can get to the kids. It's up to you guys and us to regulate, to repair. It's our job as adults to do those things. We apologize, we reconnect, we repair, we mirror and manage and the household and teach that, right? Model that. So you have 49% lower risk of mortality. You live longer. We know that when we have the oxy hormone going through us, that we actually have bone growth and we have less osteoporosis. Seriously, of course we have more sex. So anything that's long-term, and time and time again, that's the thing, is we do have to fall in love time and time again, because this is a maintenance thing, right? So over and over and over and over again, and we fall back in love. And that's what releases that oxy hormone that really says, okay, I have a long-term committed relationship. So this is where we have to look at the brain and say, okay, attachment styles makes a huge difference in this. So we have to repair our attachment styles over and over and over again when we get our trust violated, or we have childhood trauma or neglect, emotional neglect. So how the brain works is how we are wired for monogamy. This is all from this book again. How we're connected, how we have empathy, and how we can hurt for others, with others, for others, and have that empathy. And that gets us to the oxy hormone also. But it's also like, okay, that's why we live longer. That's why we're healthier. That's why we want to kindle the relationship. And, the opposite is living in resentment. That's a root issue that a lot of people sit in. It's usually because it's a parent-child relationship, or you have an attachment style of anxious or avoidant, which sends you into a parent-child relationship. When you're in a relationship of two adults, you're not supposed to be in a parent-child relationship. So it sends us into like sealed off sex or attachment style influences motive. So sex follows connection. So of course, sex has a lot of benefits to our health. So this is just a little bit of science, right? Growing into emotional isolation. That's what she's saying. So it's true. So what's happening to love and the definition of love has changed. It really, really has, over just a very short amount of time. Okay. So let's read a little bit about what love really is. Intimacy, passion, and commitment is the three components that Robert Sternberg stated that what love is. So most of the time, it's like we have this love as nature's reproductive strategy. Okay, that's what it kind of started with, right? Did it start as a reproduction strategy, and then it's gone to a little bit different of nature of love is ever in our everyday lives. The most popular definition that has come out as that love is a mystery. So we can't really pinpoint it. And Sue Johnson says, for those of us, and that is almost all of us, who are trying to find it or mend it or keep it. So think about, are you trying to find it? Are you trying to mend it? Or are you trying to keep it? So maybe you're trying to mend it and keep it. because that does go together. But it's like having it a mystery, she says, is a definition of disaster. It robs us of hope. So does it even matter that we understand love? There's lots of jokes about that, right? Understanding what women want, what men want. We're from different planets. And that's been bumped, by the way. Gottman has a statement on that. Don't order that book. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So what happens is we have grown into more emotional and physical isolation. And this was before COVID, folks, like for sure, right? So our mirroring neurons are really important. They can actually be damaged and depleting, because think about mirroring neurons and what you're watching and how violence, video games, things like that happen. And then here's one of, okay, kissing mirror. So think about your kids. This is a question. When's the last time your kids saw you guys as a couple, if you're here as a couple, kiss? What do you think their mirroring neurons do in their brain when they see you kiss? Ask yourself that. 30 million people live solo right now. Back when this was done several years ago, that study that she quotes. And right now, 30 million live alone. Not now, but it was like 2 years ago. When this was put out, but this was put out in 2014. But now it's like 4 million compared to 4 million in 1950. So 30 million compared to 4 million in just a short amount of time. Can you imagine what it is now in the census, right? So we have to wait for another census to come out, which takes years and years, right? Okay, so let me look at the chat for a minute. Sealed off sex. Okay, so she talks about, I'll tell you this right now because I have it marked. Sealed off sex is on page 116. So numerous studies over the past 10 years show how 3 attachment styles, secure, anxious, and avoidant, influence our motives about sex. So sex says our attachment style, this follows connection, right? So attachment styles influences motives. So sealed off sex is just like an anxious or an avoidant attachment. So there's a lot less feelings, self-centered, self-affirming performances, just those kind of things, right? So what happens in relationships is it's just like, you know how it is. It's just an act, right? Not as much oxy hormone releasing. There's not the connection. There's not the intimacy. Intimacy and sex are different. So here's the intimacy part. So you have to have connection, which is the intimacy, which is pillow talk and all the other things that leads up to that, right? Too. So numerous studies over the past 10 years show how 3 attachment styles influence that. So sealed off sex is a common problem to connection. Okay. Does that answer some of the questions? Let's see. Yeah. It's not just as much of a not commitment. It's just less connection because of your attachment style is not secure. So, and if you want more on attachment, just email me. But you've really got to go into, there's a book called Attached. I don't even have it referenced in this, but it's called Attached. And it teaches you what attachment styles you are and how to correct your attachment style for adult relationships. Okay. Okay. Moving on to some love prescription. Okay. Good so far? So this just came out. This is a cute little book by the Gottmans, Julie and John. So, oh man, I have this mark too. So this is a book of 7 days of helping you get to connection, which is falling in love again. I mean, 100%. I mean, he's come out with 40, almost 50 years of research that explains exactly what happens to a relationship when it ends and what happens to a relationship that's more connected and how to do it scientifically, perfectly. And he's over 90% right. He's about 95% right. He predicts if a couple stays together or not. So turning towards each other as a bid, by the way. So those that remain toward each other with their bids, turning toward each other. So that just means that if you do some of his work or go to his website right down here or his podcast, you'll understand what bids are. And turning toward each other, the opposite is turning against or away from each other in anything. Someone asks a question, someone says, hey, can you get that for me? Or someone texts someone and it's like I'm busy. Like, can you do that yourself? That's turning against. It's not ignoring. But if you do that 80% of the time, you're going to get divorced. If you do that 70% of the time, you're going to end up divorced. So 70% of conflict doesn't get solved. Now, I quote that all the time. It's really like 68, 69 point something percent. And I say, why would I say this? 100% of conflict does not get resolved or solved. Why do you think I would say that? His research shows that conflict doesn't get solved or resolved. Go back to the tire. Is it resolved? Is it fixed? Yeah, maybe, right? But it still is patched. And eventually you're going to have to get a new tire. So conflict will come up and up and up and up again, multiple times through a relationship and over the years, tons of it, right? Maybe not. But if you have conflict that comes up and up and up and up, do you think it's resolved and fixed? It's not. It's just maintained until next time, because we don't know. We don't know when something's going to come up again. Exactly what just someone says. We don't know. We can't predict the future. So we're going to have to resolve it again and again and again. So that doesn't mean it's solved at all. So that's my little theory there. It's tough. But if you don't repair it all, that's Gottman's recipe for disaster. So when I see a couple, most of the time, they don't know how to repair. And if you go back to my first slide, it's the fourth one down: safety, trust, connect. Got to connect the dots and connect somehow. Then you repair. Then you do that because you have really good value systems and and balance and boundaries. So I'm not being a pessimist of the conflict. It's just like, we just don't know. We don't know if something's going to get broken, and we don't know if it's ever going to stay fixed, right? So it's not fixed. 10-minute check-ins. So he talks a lot about those, right? And I'm going to talk about those later. I statements, positive things. Okay, so we're going to focus on that. More physical affection is page 207. And I've got that highlighted. I'll hurry read that before I change off this slide. So this is more affection. Okay. So this is back to the connection and intimacy. So how do we build that again? How do we fall in love again? Which scientifically we can do. And we might have to do that weekly or monthly or yearly, but I think we have to continuously work on it. So if you want more affection, page 107. Say, I love you every day. Kiss passionately for no reason. That means he says, I think it's over 6 seconds, so that's, back to your mirroring neurons for your kids. Kiss a little bit. You give each other compliments. Okay. They know what turns their partner on. They are physically affectionate in public. They keep playing and having fun together. They cuddle often. They make sex a priority, not the last item on the long to-do list. They stay friends. Oh, that's huge. That's in the foundation of the house that I get, that is a handout in this. You have to be friends. They can talk comfortably about their sex life. They have weekly romantic dates. They have romantic vacations, and they're also mindful about turning toward each other. Okay, so that's that little list. So back to what you need is one of the days, and noticing the positive things is one of the days. So I just put a couple of those examples in there. So let's do, let's see. Oh, this one was supposed to be next. I'm going to fix that before I set it up. Okay, so this is an example, right? So I found this, there's several of these that are, if you just Google, you can see the last page of, oh, this is the date one. That's why it's in the right place. Okay, so this is that book. And if you want to understand more of that, right? So basically you can go to this and, you know, you can download this too, but notice the positive things, super easy, what you need. And at the end of each day, he does a reflect. This is how you do it. This is the checklist. And then troubleshooting, like I said, the obstacles. If you feel pressured, you know, right? So by this, or if you keep, so that the one that really stood out to me is noticing the positive things. For example, one day out of the week, you go around and you really notice your partner's positive things that they do. Really, really positive things. And you just focus on the positive, all the things that they do. All the things they do right. So you don't know how many times I've asked a couple, or I've asked, you know, separate, when they're having couple issues, is what do they do right? What does your partner do right? Because I haven't heard anything yet. And I say that to people. I'm like, what do you do right? Because I don't know. And I would really like to know what that is. And it's super hard for a lot of people to tell me what that is. And that's kind of sad. So normal amount of sex for a couple married for 5 years. The last I read, the normal is 2.6, almost 2.5 or something like that. For an average couple, actually ones that are married longer have more commitment, you know, or in a partnership longer, they actually have more sex. So it might be over, you know, 2.5 times per week. So the average is anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. Now, Come As You Are is a book for female, and you can read about that and what's normal and what's not scientifically. For women, it would help. So that was just an answer to a question there. Yes. What are some of the insights on a long distance relationship? I'll have to talk to you after for that one. That one's fun. Yeah, per what? Week. Yeah, a couple times a week at least, you know. So, okay. So next book. So anyways, this one's really fun. Okay. So that just came out. This one's been around. I went and saw the Gottmans. It was like bucket list check. I went and sat on the front row almost when they came to Utah, when they came to Salt Lake City. And they were promoting this book. This is super fun. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm going to move on. But this is super fun. Okay. So this is, for example, date 1. Lean on me, trust and commitment. That speaks to me the most. I tell people to start with that one, because if you don't have trust and safety and commitment, we have to start there. It helps with trust, vulnerability, cherishing and committing, right? So happily ever after is not by chance. It's by choice. The choice each person in a relationship makes to remain open, remain curious, and keep talking to one another. It's not just talking, it's connecting with one another. I I don't even use the word communication. I use the word connection with my couples. How are you connecting? I don't have to have anyone talk. Sometimes it's connection. So how are you connecting? But the key word is each person in a relationship makes that. So that takes two people. I had a professor that I worked with for several years and that I graduated. He was my senior year, my undergrad. And he said, it doesn't take two to tango. It just doesn't, because it only takes one to really screw it up, but it takes two to have a relationship. It takes two people to have trust. Trust is about two people, two things, a partnership of your coworker, and it's all about trust. So it takes two people to build that trust and in any kind of commitment. So it is a tough thing. So there is some obstacles that we're talking about in here in a minute. So this was another example I was starting to say is in this book. These are several of these last page summaries. An example of this is on the internet. So this is just one of them. This is one of the dates in here. So you can find basically the gist of the dates without buying the whole book. There's lots of reviews on each one. So just in case you don't want to buy a hardback book, but it's super fun. Hey, how much did these books cost me compared to my tires? Let me see, right? I have hundreds of books and it's an investment. So do what you can. So with your educating yourself in science and in relationships. Okay. So everybody get a piece of paper, write down how much time do you really spend, time, energy, money on falling in love again? How much time do you want it to be? This is called 5 Hours of Magic. This is an article by Gottman. I have the whole article that I can email you. Maybe I'll just put that in with the PowerPoint. She could email it to you, actually. But it's really simple. This is all you need. When you come home and leave or part, even as you drop, like just you're going somewhere and I'm going to go to the store. So it takes 2 minutes, 2 minutes to go greet that person, say goodbye, hug that person, say something to them. So that's times 5 in a week. That's way, 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 way low. So 10 minutes. Reunions, right? When you come back from somewhere, make it real, especially if you're traveling, if it's been a while, if it's been, right? So just making sure you really spend more time. Now think about how you do this with your kids. Especially do this with their kids. You get up and you say goodbye, or you check in with them, and as mine are grown, and so I have 7 blended grown kids, and I'm gonna greet them, and I'm gonna reunionize with them. That's a word, and hey, it's been a while since I've seen you, and then admiration. Remember that one day that is in here of the intimacy connection. You go around and just appreciate all the good things and keep track of all the things that your partner does right. One of the worst things that you can ever do that actually scientifically Gottman has recorded is tally marking. And I've said that hundreds of times with couples. Do you tally mark? But why aren't we tally marking what we appreciate about our spouse? I could talk about me all day long and make funny, but this is recorded. It's really funny. I write about this. I have a chapter coming out next month on broken relationships and how to heal self. It's like, but how do you heal and how do you fall in love again with someone if there's severe tally marking of everything they've done wrong? It won't work. So affection weekly dates. It's like, so I add my tip to this. I always say this is the add-on. 24 hours a month, 48 hours a year alone. So we can't just do 2-hour dates a week and think that we never go overnight. Do you know what happens to the brain when you have hotel sex outside of your own house somewhere? Do you know what happens to the brain? You can just leave it there. It adds a lot more dopamine, right? So it's a little less stressful, hopefully, right? And I don't think we do that enough. Who didn't go anywhere overnight for the last 2 years with your partner? Anybody want to admit that? You didn't go anywhere because of COVID, because of babysitters, because of, lots of things. So that adds up to 5 hours. And by the way, Billy Crystal says women need a reason for sex, men need a place. Sue Johnson quotes that in her book. Love Foundation, this is just like a handout, okay? I don't have time to go into it all, but this is what builds a foundation that builds fondness, okay? He talks about, you remember the admiration, turning towards each other. There you go. Positive perspective. Oh, stop tally marking the negative. Manage conflict. Oh, there's your conflict. This is a roadmap to how you do this. And you have to get to love and dreams and, creating shared memory to the top. Okay. So there is a roadmap, 100% scientifically how to fall in love again and turning towards each other again. Managing conflict, same thing. Repetitive, right? These are his love map exercises, by the way. These are just some examples. This is his Gottman's card deck app. Super fun to do on dates. Okay, just pick one. Just pick one and make it your focus and ask questions. I love doing that. I did this with my husband several times in the car. And we always listen to a book on tape. We've listened to Men's Guide to Women probably at least 2 to 3 times, because I can get through the whole book to St. George and back. So Men's Guide to Women, I have a slide here in a minute about that. But I would, we were, just on a ride, right? And you specifically say, okay, I'm going to, so open-ended questions. And so you go through the deck and you match up, and then you see what the answers are at the end of what you are the same on. It's just getting to know each other again and again and again and again, because everything changes. I will show you those recommendations of the books in the back when I get to the references. So Men's Guide to Women, I just mentioned. It is in my top 5. I have probably 10 books in my top 5, but I have 10 top authors that they won't leave. Nothing will hijack them. But Gottman's in there, of course, but this is in my top 5 books, just top 5 books of just life. If everyone, not just men, read this book, it's 186 pages. And I'm super passionate, if you can't tell, I'm a little biased towards all of this research. Because 60% of that book is so misunderstood that we have to read it. We have to understand it. And that talks about bids again. Too many times they might not be there when you finally turn towards them. Betrayals, staying curious. You are never afraid of sharing your own world. Heroes are always curious about her and never stop investigating her and asking her questions. It goes both ways. But this is about Men's Guide to Women, about that. Women need more of that, and you can just read the book. I'm not going to go into too much of it, but the key here is what a zero is and what a hero is. Okay? And all I have to tell you is a zero is a person, male, in this particular book, someone that doesn't follow through. So a zero is someone that doesn't follow through. So we want follow through. And every person in a relationship wants follow through because that provides safety, not just security. So that's a good one to look at. It's a good one. If you live longer, if you're married or have a long-term partner, she lives longer if she has female friends. You live longer if she lives longer. Encourage your female friendships. Encourage her, female friendships. That is scientific. Think about it. So encourage her female friendships because you live longer, she lives longer, and you're going to be happier when she has female friends. And I always add some funny jokes to like purses and shoes. We like, those kind of things too. I do work with LGBTQ and plus couples, people. I have several private practice clients, and I have multiple times worked with, and the research shows to be the same. And Gottman's had lots of different couples in his love lab of gay, straight, all kinds. Okay, 4 horsemen. This is just a handout. You learn about the 4 horsemen yourself. These don't work. These kill relationships over here. This is how we build up to. So I want to have some time for the last couple slides and some questions. So there's a question for you. What are you in your relationship? This is my analogy I give to couples all the time. And I ask them, are you fake? Are you turf? Have you just been faking it for a really, really long time? You don't have to water anything. It looks great from the outside. It's okay. No judgment. But you're fake. You're not connected. You're roommates. You're, doing the thing. And you don't like each other. You're not friends. And then here's the debt. Gottman says, if you're dead in your relationship, it is possible, and we have a recipe to bulldoze it up and start over. And he calls it your second marriage. You can get here. You can replant, but you might have to bulldoze it up. You might have to get rid of that because you have to start over and plant some new seed or some sod. Or are you half dead? Meaning if you just watered it, you'd make it. If you just came together and said, okay, we need to water the grass 3 times a week, and we need to kill this spot. This spot is killing us. This thing is killing us. We need to go to therapy. We need to start over. We need with this spot. Now, I've had a 30-year couple come to me and they were dead, but they were good people. They were friends. They were really good roommates, again, like the fake, but they wanted to start over. Within 4 weeks, they were having sex. They were connected. They were a totally different couple. I had another couple that had 2 affairs, one on one side and one on another, about 4 years apart. And they had big patches. They weren't dead and they weren't fake, but they worked on it again and repaired it to a point where they had to maintain it. So now we just got to water it, right? Got to water it. And the grass may be greener, it may not be greener on the other side. Right? As I said, I have 7 blended children. So, obstacles to repair. So this is the repair, or to fall in love again, right? So what are your obstacles? Let's have a little talk. Is this all just like, I can't do it. There's too much. I can't do this repair list, right? All this just keeps coming. This list, what's your list? See if there's like 5 things on this list. I just threw these together. I don't know. Daycare, I don't have time. I don't have time. That comes up a lot, right? And then there's root issues that's where we need to do some therapy, right? I'm really biased towards couples therapy because I love it. Because obviously coming together is really tough, but it's really vulnerable, and hopefully it repairs some things and you have a safe place to try to repair some of those things. The statistics aren't great. Gottman quotes them. It's 6 years. The average, a couple that comes in after a trauma of a traumatic experience of the relationship, it's 6 years before they come into therapy. Do you think they have real deep rooted issues by then of lack of commitment and mistrust and hurt and value changes and lack of repair? Yes. So 6 years of neural pathway patterns into their body and into their soul and into their relationship. But does that mean that it can't be redone? I think it can, because that's what I do, but help people do. So what's your barriers? What's the juggling? So back to juggling, right? So this was about juggling crap and everything that we're juggling, right? And then how do we do that? There's just some ideas, and that's all. You can take one little thing, take one book, start there, be a safe couple to do that with together. So back to the references, the 5 love languages is awesome. I've kind of bolded these main ones: Men's Guide to Women, Love Prescription. What makes love last is right here. So this is after betrayal, how to build trust and avoid betrayal, and after betrayal, and avoiding it, but after too. There's several books on how to rebuild your relationship after betrayal. I could give you 30 books on this subject, on everything. I mean, honestly, 7 principles. But what makes love last is just a different type. 7 principles, awesome. Love Sense is Sue Johnson right here. I love Harriet Lerner, The Dance of Anger, Why We Don't Apologize. Wired for Love is How to Understand Your Partner's Brain and Attachment Style. That one's also okay too. I haven't read that one all the way, so I just breezed through that a little bit. I don't own that book, but that one looks really good. It has a lot of good things in it. My other top 5 book, and I don't have a highlight because it's not part of this thing, is How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk by Van Earp. It is in my top 5. It will never leave my top 5 books. Everyone should read How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk. Whether you're in love or whether you're not, whether you are single, whether you're married, doesn't matter. I taught that as one of our books as I was teaching marriage relations at the university. And we used that book, How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk. Falling for a jerk.